On the Wizards Outlook, we got Cardo Dudley Jr. rejoining us. Wilson Turbot Jr. Cardo, every single key to the game that was discussed was blown to smithereens in that second quarter. Um, we went through the last couple of years, always talking about there's always one quarter. Well, I literally remember you saying, talking about Desmond Bain to a lesser degree, but Paolo, just that he was due. He was due. He was due. Don't let it be tonight. And lo and behold, Washington's watch, it was tonight. Before the game, I told you guys it had been 10 straight by Orlando in this series. This makes it 11. Um, Tell me what you saw in that second quarter.
I just saw the defense just go away. Um, I don't know why. The Wizards came out in the first quarter and played well, played solid defense as a whole. Their offense was clicking, and the thing is, their defense fed their offense. It sparked their offense. They got out and ran, got transition threes, layups, got the chance to execute. I think in that first quarter, Cam had about 10 points off the bench. If I'm not mistaken, no, not in that first. In the first quarter, yeah. Keyshawn had 10. Cam had 8. My fault. Cam had 8, but he was 3 of 3, 1-1 from the 2 of 2 from deep, and a couple of them Jones was just transition threes because they had the numbers. Even if he missed, they had numbers to go in there and get the rebound. Keyshawn George was clicking, 10 points, 5 or 6 shooting. So they had a flow, and it started with their defense. Just turning them over, getting out and running, and taking advantage of what they had. All in all, the Magic still shot 52% from the field, so that was alarming. So it wasn't like their defense got stops, but they got enough stops where they could score, and I think their scoring slowed down the pace for the Magic because the ball was going through the net, and it's hard to run off of makes consistently. With that being said, the second quarter, things it flipped. It flipped real quick. Paulo got super aggressive. I think he got mad in the first quarter. I think he felt like he was fouled on one play. Him and, Cam had a couple words. And, he was looking at the refs going, saying what he had to say. And, after that, he turned up. And he wasn't alone. Franz was right there with him in that quarter. They had 26. They had 26 of the 43 points by themselves. Between the two, they only missed 3 shots. They were literally 9 of 12 in that quarter alone. And then it opened the floodgates. The team as a whole, the shooting splits, 69, 42, and 100 in that quarter alone. You can't win like that, man. It's self-explanatory. When we said in the pregame, the Magic defense over the last couple of years was the thing that carried them.
Yep.
Came alive in that quarter. Held the Wizards to 29% shooting in the second quarter. From the field, 20% from deep. Only thing they shot well, they were 4 for 4 from the line. And they had 5 turnovers in that quarter. Just pure dominance in that game. That quarter was the difference in the game, literally. And, sucked the life out of the Wizards. Sucked the life out of the arena from when I was watching. And then it was just a matter of Orlando not beating themselves, and they didn't. And even in the second half, they still just carried it on 50-38 Magic. They were so dominant after that second quarter that Paulo and Franz only played 30 minutes and Paulo only played 26. They just jumped on to beat them and just rested because the game was over, man. And we knew both teams were struggling coming in. One team was going to have to get it right. And the Magic, they got back on track. They got in rhythm. They got the confidence back. And they found their identity back with that second quarter, getting back on track defensively. And what is this, 11 in a row against the Wizards?
Yes, it is. It is 11 in a row in their regular season series. Yeah.
They won just about every statistical category. They just dominated, man. And that's why I went to Orlando struggles. You hearing people, talk about them, calling out Apollo. It's too early for all that, man. It's just they've been in the playoffs before. That you could trust them to figure it out. The Wizards haven't came close. This reiteration of the Wizards haven't came close. So with their struggles, it's more alarming because you don't know if they can come out of it because they haven't shown that they know how to come out of it. Even CJ and Chris, yes, they won a lot of games and all that, but they're not showing it right now. They don't look to be the same players that they once were. And that's what's also disheartening. They may have the know-how, but physically you could just see them struggling just to get past guys, to get stops, to get around guys. It's just, what they say for all the time is undefeated. You can see it creeping up on those brothers, man. So, but the thing is, the youngins don't have the know-how yet. So you stuck between veteran guidance and young legs that can get the job done, but just don't have the knowledge to get it done right now. So, they stuck between the rock and a hard place. But the Magic, they had both. Guys that got it done and got the ability to get it done. It's just a matter of finding their rhythm. And tonight they found a rhythm, and that's why they walked out with a 31-point win.
Yeah, there was a couple times to your point where it's about CJ and Chris. Then Wendell Carter Jr. got switched on to CJ a couple times. I think besides they did too, and you would think in that much space, but CJ wasn't able to win those matchups. With Chris, we see him in previous games kind of get to that elbow, been able to create a little separation, shoot over folks. You're not shooting over anybody on the wing on Orlando. It's that's just a totally different thing. But like you said, it is really a rock between a rock and a hard place because you need the veteran know-how. They can't tonight. They cannot physically do the things they wanted to do. Defensively, I thought Wendell Carter Jr. was huge for Orlando too. And I was tweeting away in the first half, like their front line, like ruined this game for Washington in that first half. I know Paolo eventually hit a couple threes, but Wendell Carter did a good job spacing the floor, and then just the damage inside. I think Malau was kind of like the only wizard at that time that was athletically able to, kind of get any traction inside, and even then, it's not like it was going to be efficient. Um, and Keyshawn, he has to figure out a way to stop picking up silly fouls. I thought the other thing that coincided with that second quarter run was him getting saddled to the bench with 3 fouls. Two of the 3 fouls he picked up in the first half were just silly. One was an illegal screen, and I think his very first foul of the game was just a silly reach where you weren't going to get the ball, and there was no reason to do it. But those are the types of fouls that after you get the fouls that you actually commit, now instead of having one in a couple minutes into the second quarter, and you're still out on the floor, you got an additional 2. Now you got 3 stuck on the bench, and that's not to say that doesn't mean Orlando wasn't going to do what they did that quarter, but they're not at a place where they can afford him to just be off the floor like that for long periods at a time. Just being completely honest. And you talked about it, he got off to a hell of a start. Kind of get into the elbow, hitting jumpers off the bounce, and then that's gone. So, like you said, you go from the ball going in the basket, so they can't really run, to the ball's not going in the basket. They're shooting, you're shooting in the 20s. Orlando's just ripping and running. You saw Jalen Suggs get crazy active in that second quarter as well. Just for Orlando, like you said, they were due, and unfortunately for Washington, it happened in this one. That second quarter run was crazy.
I mean, but they reaching. I mean, you can't be undisciplined against them, against any NBA player, honestly, because they make you pay. But the young man, it's just being disciplined. That's a big part of defense. You got to be disciplined because you can, like you said, you can pick up 2 quick fouls, and you got a rhythm going. Now you sitting, and that's an art in itself to still mentally stay locked in to it doesn't impact your rhythm. So you get back in, which is typically if you're top player on your team. It's typically in the second half, you can still pick right back up where you left off, which is very, very hard to do. It's very hard to get that rhythm back because by the time you get back in the game doesn't change so much from when you started. You got to get acclimated to what the rhythm is now compared to when you come out the game, and that's just very hard to do. Then you also got to understand, I don't think people understand how big Paulo and Franz are. They're both 6'10". Franz is 230, Paulo's 250. Super athletic with that. So I think Keyshawn was 6'7". No, they got him listed at 6'9", but he's 211. Chris Middleton 6'7", but he's not that big. We know Wasar is 6'11", probably like 225, 230. Bilal still a little like 6'8", but 203. They just don't have they don't have the mass or the height to match up with that. So you can't beat yourself. You gotta execute well, man. And that's just tough, man, with the athleticism. Like you said, Suggs and Bane and stuff like that. Like Suggs is similar to like a Josh Hart. Just a rugged, defensive minded guard that could do a little bit of everything. You know what I mean? So that's why you see life was so tough for the point guards, the CJs and Treys and Bub. None of them shot well, because they had to deal with that, man. So yeah, man, the Wizards in a tough spot. But the thing is, nothing will change until, as a team, they make a commitment like defense. We have to get this right and sustain it. People don't like hearing that because everybody want to be all flashy and just score and pretty basketball. But pretty basketball gets your ass whooped. So again, the game changed when one team got hot and they locked up the other team, held them to 20-some% shooting, and then the game was over. You got to play both ends. Scoring is important, but defense is more important because defense can sustain you when your offense goes, because it will go in spurts. If not for a long stretch, it will go. But defense, you can always be the most consistent at. That's why, and it requires all 5 players on the court to be in unison and be in sync to be effective. That's why it requires more work. That's why it requires more emphasis, and that's why it's most important, because without it, you have no chance. And until the Wizards get that right, until some of the young players really buy in on that end, that we have to start with this and really understand how to do our jobs and trust one another to do their jobs, we're going to keep getting results like this.
You're absolutely right. And literally, I think what really got Paolo in rhythm was they started to get stops in that second quarter. And then the three, you can literally watch it. You saw the threes, lifting his legs, everything seemed more comfortable after they were getting stops. Because at first, the threes, and you could tell, was not to say he's pressing, but it just looked a little off. They started getting stops, got into a flow, and next thing you know, the same way he was hitting the middies, threes, getting the threes starting to look comfortable as well. And the pressure, like you said, the mass. Like, I wish people could be in the arena to see on the they're huge. They get downhill. It's almost like bigs going downhill. The other thing is when they hit the glass, and they're about the size of bigs, right? With handle. So they're getting you off balance before they get downhill. It's not just straight, like, you know what I'm saying? It's not just running through your chest. They can do that too after they get you leaning one way to the other. But there's a reason they've caused Washington so much trouble since the two of them have been together. But I'm going to put it up on the screen.
Yeah, Paulo, 28, 11 to 4, 26 minutes. Damn near half the game.
I was sitting here in disbelief in the first half. Like, he's really about to get his. I thought they were both about to get their season average in the first half, which again speaks to just how bad the Wizards defense was tonight. X factor though for you.
Um, I'm gonna probably go with Wendell for the simple fact he neutralized Alex Sarr, who's been having a good start to the season, and he had a good double-double, 16 points and 12 rebounds, 7 to 10 from the field, man. He's just a perfect complement to those guys. And again, we talk about that massive front line. Wendell ain't exactly a small guy either. He's 6'10", 260 his dang self. You know what I mean? So that's a massive front line that's also versatile and can do a lot of different things. They can play pick and roll, pick and pop, screens, dance on you, post up, lob threat, get out and run all three. They can shoot. They're just a matchup problem, man. And the Wizards are very thin in their front court. They got Keyshawn playing the 4. They're very thin. Even Sarr, even with the bulking up he did or something, he's still very undersized physically. mass wise, and Marvin Bagley is as well. I mean, you take those two out; those are really your only centers. You take those two out, all you got is a bunch of wings and guards, literally. So against bigger teams, it just wears you down, and they got to figure out something, man. I mean, I know Vuk also down there, but he's thinner than both of them. Bagley and what I'm saying, Sar. So yeah, definitely Wendell. He did what he should do. I'm take advantage of the inside matchup. Just get where I fit in off of Franz Apollo, and let's get this W. Get up out of here, and then keep it moving.
Yeah, for me, I went with I pulled a U. I went with Wendell Bataze. I thought Goga came in and gave him great minutes. Where when they took some of their key guys out, you didn't have to put them back in. It goes a long way. You talk about that rest. Goga got it was only I think it was only what was it 15? It was 15 points, but he kept it going with that second unit where you didn't have to, like again, people could call it a night. But the both of them again, you've been talking about, you were screaming from the hills a couple years back, the bigs are coming. That's all you can ask out of your group of bigs, right? Your front court dominate both with your starters, and your backup big came in and handled his business as well. To allow them to sustain that rest. But unfortunately for Washington, we watch Orlando kind of get right in this one. Keep an eye on them going forward to see if they can sustain it. But for Washington, yeah, it was just an ugly loss. You got anything else you wanted to add?
Yep, and now they face another struggling team with a lot of talent, the Knicks, on Monday at their crib. So they want to look to the Wizards to get right on them once again. At some point, the Wizards got to fight, man.
Yeah, you can't be the get right team. Nobody wants to be that. We appreciate you guys. We'll check in with you guys soon. Again, Orlando beat Washington 125-94 tonight.